Good evening, Adepts. As members of the Society of the Holy Wound, we dedicate ourselves to the lore that opens and the principles that concern the opening of thresholds spiritual, physical, and mental. Our hours are the Mother of Ants, the Meniscate, the Horned Axe, and the Beachcomber. Common membership amongst our brethren include locksmiths, flagellants, and spies. An example is the nun from the Sisterhood of the Knot, who occasionally visits the Sweet Bones on the Isle of Brankrug, connected to Nock through her organisation. Another is Giorgio the Smuggler, a melancholy and philosophical smuggler of rare cigarettes, rare poisons, and rarer weapons. Mastery of Nock allows us to open the way and to see the gaps in reality. Those practiced in the occult arts often have their talents manifest as visions and dreams, as the very fabric of what is real is unravelled to them. Enid, a disciple of Nock, sees the gaps between things. This makes things very difficult for her despite the power that brings her. Those who are powerful in Nock find many practical applications, ranging from the picking of locks to finding ways that did not previously exist, some even managing to open the thresholds between the histories. On matters of subversion, all lore relates to the Mansis and the split between that and the Wake. Because of this, Nock is the key that unlocks all lore and subverts it to its own. In this way, Nock could be considered the most fundamental of principles. The Mother of Ants is the hour who allowed humanity to first force ourselves into the Mantis. It is she who allows this brutal perversion of the other laws, much to our benefit. Beside this primary dynamic, the Nock hours hold principles of Lantern, Grail, Forge, and Winter. We should always remember, however, that there are paths known between all things, and we alone hold the power to open them all. Mastering the powers of thresholds can allow us access to places we may not belong, and to take that which does not belong to us. As we read in Inam, Capigigin Lupir, Garki, Crippis. Has not the beach crow shared his treasures? Not the rarest, he takes those things most precious, which he claims found, not stolen. As the principle that must be invoked to traverse the doors of the Mantis, having an influence of Nock is necessary for any kind of summoning rite, in order to provide passage for the forces being summoned to the Wake. This accounts for all ways that a spirit can be brought to the material plane, from the more mundane voiceless dead to the rites which can summon great entities like King Crucible or the Baldemarian. The significant connection between laws that is not represented in the aspects of its hours is between Nock and Edge. The two are tied almost intrinsically. An extremely common symbol of Nock is an open wound, as it is an opening into the body. The Mother of Ants in particular views bearing wounds as a holy form of worship, with a notable example being the Nazarene Messiah. 7 were the wounds of his body, 7 the doors of the house, 7 the lesser aspects of the hours, and Nock the aspect above all, for the Mother of Ants is the Mother of Salvation. Another connection between Nock and Edge is shown through the Horned Axe, who is stated to have at one time been an Edge hour, and is still supposedly so in the House of the Moon. The Encircling Tantra speaks of the Serpent Gate, that hungry portal sometimes known as the Spider's Door, which is sacred to the Mother of Ants, through which the Great Hooded Princes pass. The Great Hooded Princes are a group of Nock Long who influence the material world greatly through subtle means. They are especially notable for their escapade of an entire history, managing to escape their doom at the hands of the House of Leith, later the Obliviates, into a history where they yet survived. In this new history, they undertook a secret conquest of India. This act ensured that no matter who in turn conquered the land, it would be the princes who would rule it from the shadows. The Hooded Princes have undergone transformations to become serpent people, though they can still hide this form, as we see with the most well-known prince, Aaron Peel. He is especially notable for abandoning the Mother of Ants to instead follow the Thunderskin. Despite this switch of allegiance, he demonstrates a great deal of power in the Nock principle, still being able to do things such as visiting the exile at the Fane of Owls. The eyes of the owls in the hawthorn tree glimmer pale gold. There's a flare of light too beneath the tree. A tall man in a snakeskin jacket has just lit a cigarette. In the matchlight, his face is lean, dark, and familiar. "Hello again," he says. "This is a surprise. I suppose the double-edged brought you here to make a point. She won't want any new edge dyads in the world. Do you have something to show me?" If the exile is able to demonstrate the possession of pentiments, Aaron will assist them by granting another, all in the name of assisting the exile in their escape from the Reckoners. Though, as a renegade knock long, perhaps now is not the time to ponder Aaron Peel. Instead, let us turn our attentions to the hours that open our bodies, open our minds, and above all, open the way. Firstly, the Mother of Ants, who is the 5th hour. She is a god from flesh who ascended during the Lythomachi, being the priestess who helped scar the Colonel to protect him from the power of the 7 coils. A 7-titled goddess arises from the foam of the 7 coils' blood. She is an armoured queen, a serpent daughter, a key, a healer, a murderess, an oracle, but her 7th title is not to be revealed. This quote tells us a lot about the Mother of Ant's significance and the sheer breadth of her influence. Each of the previous descriptors explains either her ascendancy or the manifestation of her knock principle. Whilst a recurring theme amongst the occult arts is the number 7, with the Mother of Ant it is particularly prominent, from the number of her titles to the number of her slain coils to the number of the keys and doors of the Mansus. An alternate name for the Mother of Ants is Saint Agnes, being the patron of the ascendant priest. Christian iconography is very prevalent in her following, as previously discussed regarding the Nazarene Messiah, a name of hers who in some histories is known as Jesus Christ. Her influence is so widespread that even London has hospitals bearing her name. The priest ascendancy concerns a holy person in charge of their own Church of St. Agnes. The priest's rank within their church is yet another parallel to be drawn to Christian symbology. The priest's goal is to acquire 7 lock scars upon their body, each one representing a non-knock principle. "When I open like the arms of the mother, and open I will remain, as the shell from which the pearl is taken. The space where I was will be a postern gate in the fortress of days that only my initiates will ever pass. But in the 5th history alone my skin will peel from me in tatters, my teeth will be long and my flesh scant upon my bones as sea wrack, and I will rise like a wave and hud myself to mark what I have become." This is very likely the same ritual that the great hooded princes, who are also followers of the Mother of Ants, performed in order to escape from their history. The description of the form the priest transforms into within the 5th history is highly reminiscent of a serpent. It appears that another hooded prince is created, or perhaps that is how it came to be all along. The Meniscate is the 11th hour. She was originally a name of the sun in splendour, becoming a god from light during the intercalate alongside the other solar hours. She represents balance and reflections, being especially associated with mirrors, and rules the house of the moon. As the hour of glass, the Meniscate represents ethereal beauty and also the changes present in alchemy as light passes from the sun to the moon. Both xanthotic essence and glassfinger toxin explicitly link to the Meniscate. A dirge commonly heard when relating to the Mirror Queen is as so: "What is within, without, what is without, within." This harkens to the Meniscate's patronage of reflections, which can be taken both literally and metaphorically. As the ruler of the night self of the Mansus, the Meniscate is an exceptionally influential hour. She is said to shelter the last vestige of the wheel and awaits the return of the sun in splendour. Once this occurs, all those pledged to her will return with the sun, becoming new names under him as the Meniscate is consumed. The Meniscate is involved with multiple methods of ascension. These all involve the passing of the Summit Gate, which is the only known entrance to the House of the Moon. Those who ascend in this manner do not become long, but instead are known as reflections. This can be experienced by the dancer. If the dancer does not successfully dedicate themselves to either change or preservation, the Meniscate will intervene on their path and claim them for herself, as ours are wont to do when they spot an individual that they believe should belong to them. I drift down sleep's familiar pathways until the wood comes clear before me with its grasping trees and shadow-fringed paths. But this is not the wood I know. It is old birch trees, white as moonlight, and the moonlight is black as ink. Beneath its pressure, the white skins of the trees begin to blister, then bleed. I break into a trot, then a gallop. I must reach the well, before I wake, or before something worse. As the dancer takes the final steps for their final transformation, the Meniscate's attention is drawn, and she intervenes, taking that which is too balanced for herself. My skin is tattering now. The well is ahead, but the moon is changing, is black, is gold, is pearl. The blood of the well is a red mirror, and 3 of them rise, and their faces are mine, are horned like the moon. The greatest holds a key of black sapphire, and when it parts my skin, my body is rent like lightning. And what is within, without. What is without, within. The grand result is the dancer's ascension into something that almost does not exist, with nothing left but to ponder what led them to their predicament, and wait until the sun and splendours return. I was balanced, too perfectly balanced between change and eternity, and so the Meniscate favoured me, so I passed the summit gate into the house of the moon, which is the shadow self of the Mansus. Here it is empty and still, but here the wheel still turns. I am not long, I am only a reflection, but sometimes I am the reflection of the witch, and sometimes of the sister, and when the sun is reborn, the Meniscate will bring me home. What is within, without. What is without, within. Always. Without the Meniscate's direct intervention, access to the summit gate can be achieved through the use of the Key of David, which is held by the Alakite, Mimi Machitan, the Seaborn, the Tide-Drawn, the Meniscate sister, Morgan. Laughter like birdsong and eyes of shining beads, she alone can draw on the power of the Velvet's nameless name to provide access to the summit gate to the exile, a favour only granted due to the exile being of the blood of the earth, being directly descended from the wheel and the flint. My efforts have paid off by way of a Christmassy visitor. I wish these things wouldn't happen at 2 AM. I'm sure they didn't when I was younger. Visitor claims to have been a reckoner in Dufour's mob back in 25. Paid off Morgan, and she let them through the summit gate, so Teresa was right as usual. If only we'd found Morgan in 32. Visitor claims to be blood of the earth, which means Anteos line, which means the line of the flint and the wheel. Visitor says the wheel still turns in the house of the moon, and the kinship means they're going to be a name when the wheel returns. I think I might even believe it. I'd heard Dufour was Antean too, so that fits. Perhaps he really was Teresa's father after all. But if the wheel still turns, I've got some thinking to do. After all, any student of histories knows, as within so without, one way or another. Thirdly, the beachcomber, the 10th hour, a thief, spy and voyeur. He personifies the acquisition of items which are not belonged, and secrets that should not be known. He opens the earth to find hidden treasures within. As such, he likely also invokes the profane power of scale amongst his other principles. The Roost, a thief of sights, a scavenger of thrones, a border reaver and a thief of knots, a thief of colours and a thief of bones. The beach crow is one of what are known as the aviform hours, a group consisting of the ivory dove, the laughing thrush and the twin kites, and the crow himself. These hours meet at what is known as the Roost, where the gossip and rumours of the hours are shared. This is birdsong. Looking up. The gardener's first lesson is this: look up. What starts as weather ends in the world. What starts as sky ends in the soil. This is what the birds know, and the birds know most things first. Despite the arrangement of the Roost, the beachcomber keeps his most precious secrets to himself. Amongst these are the secret forbidden couplings between hours and their names. The real hours don't meet the gods from nowhere, but the ring ewe meets the mare in the tree, in where the woods grow lush. Their couplings are forbidden, and forbidden things have power, and this is the story of their couplings. The beachcomber is one of the gods from flesh, meaning that he was once a mortal before ascending to hourhood. However, most hours we see are depicted as humanoid, even those who may take the form of birds. We do not see this with the beachcomber. Perhaps he is an example of an animal that somehow achieved immortality. Finally, we turn to the horned axe, the 13th hour and the last remaining god from stone, being the only survivor of the Lythamachy. She presides over separations and thresholds, being the hour who oversees the boundaries of the Mansus. Being one of the oldest remaining hours, she is intrinsically linked to a great many things, even the fundamentals of the Mansus. Her aspects may be winter and knock, but it is known that at one time she was an edge hour. Perhaps her reflection in the House of the Moon remains so. Following the Lythamachy, the Horned Axe is said to have been greatly angered. In order to appease her, a name of the Red Grail was sacrificed and had his skin flayed from his body. This name became the Thunderskin. Being the hour of thresholds, she also knew of the love held between the Forge of Days and the Sun in Splendour, and knew of the inevitability of what their union would become. All hours know of the crime of the sky, but the Horned Axe knows what may happen if an hour is the one who commits it. In a way, it was her who instigated the intercalate. A great enjoyment of the Horned Axe is division and separation. Wounds are a separation of flesh, as thresholds are what divide the Wake and the Mansus. As Aaron Peel says at the Fane of Owls, she won't want any new edge dyads in the world. An edge dyad represents a perfect union of strife, the antithesis of the Axe's separation. This is the same reason her and her names have warred with those of the Witch and Sister. The perfection of union versus the perfection of division. The Horned Axe is also active in preventing the spread of the crowned growth, enforcing the thresholds of nowhere. In doing this, she protects us all and proving the worth of our devotions. Another sign of her worthiness is how widespread devotion to the Axe remains. The Sisterhood of the Knot are an occult organisation of mostly women which revere the Red Grail, the Ring Yew, and the Horned Axe, symbolising the pact that surrounded the flaying of the Thunderskin which we previously discussed. The Sisterhood is widespread, even reaching hidden corners of the earth such as the Isle of Brankrug. Nuns of this order often frequent the Sweet Bones on their own business and are known to assist the librarians of Hush House from time to time. As a god from stone, the Horned Axe followers at one point will have consisted of the Carapace Cross, the insectoid predecessors of humanity that are still venerated by some. A name of the axe still associated with the cross is known as Xenodice Half-Faced, who slays or welcomes those at the threshold. This is to be expected, as we know that not all names must be human, and it would be arrogant for us to presume that the Carapace Cross did not possess the same abilities that now belong to us. The Peacock Door, before her ascendancy to her current state, was a name of the Horned Axe also. The Peacock Door, proud and shining amethyst, its glow tinting the snow-pale shapes of the glass garden. This is the highest point where mortals may penetrate the Mansus. No crack mars its surface. This is not a door that opens, although it is said it may bleed light. As an ascended name of the Horned Axe, the Peacock Door takes the appearance of a firm boundary. This is why it requires occult lantern mirrors to access. This brings us to a brief discussion on the most powerful of Nock artifacts, the Franclav. There are keys that open doors, then there are keys that destroy them. If an adept ever finds themselves in possession of this tool, they must cherish it. It allows us to find our way through the gaps in reality and invoke powers to open paths that do not exist. The Franclav is often thought of as a skeleton key. This is not accurate. It is much, much more. On Nock artifacts, the hooded princes also seem to be able to produce a substance known amongst adepts as sthenic venom, which can be regarded as aggressively invasive saliva that acts as a poison to those who ingest it, opening the body in uncountable places. Thank you for attending, adepts. For more lore, feel free to join the library. Otherwise, please go forth and spread the wounded words, for no way can be closed to us.